Ha ha ha! Drop your coin and join the Asylum. Ha 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 ha! Ah! Ha ha ha! Drop your coin and join the Asylum. Ha 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 ha!
MAME Games.
So,
Welcome to the final part of my April alternative stream, where I look at games in MAME that do not make the all-killer no-filler top lists. Now, I did want to do some streams yesterday, but kind of had a bit of eye strain, didn't feel like it was the best idea to go ahead with it, so we're left with only today to cover the remaining games. Or the games I want to cover today. There's still loads on the list that aren't going to get covered, but that's the nature of MAME, and I'm sure you'll see some of the ones that I don't get to cover in these streams, in other streams. I'm starting here with Asylum, which is a Leland prototype, and I don't know what to say about it, really. But I guess I'll start by just bringing it full screen, turn the sound up a little bit, and then start talking about it. So let's prepare and go. Right, so as I said, this is a Leland prototype, and Leland games tend to be known for being very cheap. They want you to insert lots of coins all the time, cheap deaths. Not the barest games in the world. And yeah, this probably falls into that mould too. But it's one of those games that the people that like it really like it. The people that don't like it really don't like it. It's maybe more like a sort of an Amiga game again than an arcade game in some senses. But I'm going to put a credit in, turn the volume down a little bit, and give you an idea what the game is all about. I mean, it's a Gauntlet clone of sorts, although it's not very mazy. It's more linear progression through the levels, as you'll see. And okay. And yes, Cow, well, not really 5 loops. You get to enter your initials and it remembers your initials, and each loop you get another letter of the boss's name, and then you send off the name to Leland, or had the game been released, that would be the idea. But yeah, you have to complete the thing 5 times, and it's a real credit muncher. So, as you see, it's a walk around. It's got this comic book style to it, which I think is one of the things that appeals to people. If you've played games like Comic Zone on the Mega Drive, that's of course comic book styled, and this is too. I mean, the controls are a little bit laggy, but the visual style of it is very appealing. I mean, you get all these random power-ups too. Like if I walk on the eye, it isn't clear what it does until you actually walk on it, and then you realise it turns the ground into ice. So that's not much of a power-up. In fact, that's a really bad thing to do because it's draining my energy if I hit the spikes. And this is some other card. Yeah, if you don't walk past that in time, you get squashed. So there's lots of little traps that are here and there. And this room here, again, this is a bit of a trap room. If you have to get the items and then hit the teleport to get out there, otherwise you get squashed. So you can already see the game kind of wants to kill you. I mean, I'd say the graphics are better than most Leland things here, Carlo. If you've looked at like brute force, that's horrible. But, yeah, and you get your energy back from toilets. So, yeah, make of that what you will. A magic toilet will restore my energy to totally cool. Now, it's a little bit gory. I don't know if this contributed to it not getting released or there were other reasons. I don't think anybody's ever documented why the game didn't get released. Yes, it keeps telling me the toilet's way and cool. Now, what does the Z do? I don't know. You kind of have to guess or learn what the power-ups do as you play the game more often. Got a bit of a nursery rhyme in the background. Anyway, so you're picking up all these things. You're picking up these different cards. So I missed that one. Nothing else to do here. So let's just move into the next room. Now, you can actually pretty much just run through these areas, because all you've got to do at each level is get to the lift. So what does the W do? Full power. So yeah, if you go into the lift, that is actually the end of the level, and then you get this section where the lift goes up, and the cable will break, which always happens, and then you've just got to run into the side of the lift to stop it hitting the dynamite, which is yeah, if it hits the dynamite, you lose a life. If the lift hits too much dynamite, you'll lose life. Now this again, there's traps here. If you walk down the steps into that lava, that's an obvious trap. Don't do that. But otherwise, kill things, pick things up. The art style I do actually like on this, and the speech is well done too. It's an absolute nonsense game. Look, I've already lost all my life. Had to continue once. Now this is for up to 3 players. Now, what does the A do? Is it a power up? No, it just shoots an arrow at you and kills you. Wonderful. Well, it takes energy off you. Now I've got another power up with a mirrored person shooting the other way. So there's a big mix of elements in this, and I think that's one of the reasons people who do like it. Now this section is probably one of the most ridiculous because it's pitch black and you can't really see anything, and you probably just think the game's gone wrong, but no, this is how it is. There is a flashlight hidden somewhere down there, which barely helps. There's a pitfall trap there, which, you know, you can see stars, but don't walk into it. Enemies you barely get to see. And there's this dragon thing up here, and this is where a lot of people get stuck because they think you can kill this dragon thing, but you don't kill the dragon thing, you just kind of just jump over the dragon thing. And then go this way. So yeah, I've seen a lot of people give up on the game here because they think, oh, they can't kill the dragon, and it's pitch black and it's broken, but it's not. This is kind of just a badly designed section, unfortunately. Maybe again, contributed to why it didn't get released. Yeah, something's killed me in the dark. I think the mines on the floor or something down here. So yeah, why would you do an all dark section? Look, my flashlight's run out now and I can't get another one. So I am basically trying to navigate in the dark. Oh, wonderful. I think the exit's here. Yeah, there's an exit there. Look, I found my way through that section. Totally cool. Yeah, it's a bit gauntlet, isn't it, Mitchell? And hi, and how are you doing? Also, yep, hi Mo. I think I said hi to Colo already. Hi Cow. Hi Cesarki. I don't know how you pronounce that, but hello. Anyway, welcome. Don't think I've seen you here before, so thank you for joining. I hope you enjoy what is on show. Now, what happens here? Oh, look, it's another trap that kills you. So what do we do here? I think this is a platforming section. So let's jump onto the platform. Let's jump onto this platform. I missed. So yeah, it's got overhead platforming. Just thrown into the mix. Now, I say, opinions on this seem to be mixed. A lot of people really hate it, but then I read people that played it and said, you know, it's one of their favourite games and they can't understand why it wasn't released. Remember, don't shoot food. In this case, you probably don't flush food down toilets. I really don't know. So anyway, your fiery disembodied... Well, I can't really kill you anymore. Anyway, something will do no good. I don't know. It's a bit creepy. Can't go through there. Oh, I can break through there. Okay, here's another toilet. Get my health back. Now, I don't know many other games where toilets give you your health back. This definitely stands out as one of the only games I can think of. I know Boogerman's got toilets in it, but I think they're not health, are they? And again, it's another platforming section. I've lost another life. What is even up here? Oh dear. So this is also just to get a card and a teleport item that takes me to where I could have got to anyway. Okay. So again, it's not very maze-like, as I said. So it's not perfect gauntlet clone. I appear to have got an invisibility thing here. And these walls appear and disappear. Yeah, it's a wall maze. Yeah, you get very annoyed trying to... Oh, yeah, the walls kill you, of course. Yeah, you get very annoyed if you're having to put credits into this and constantly dying to things. I think maybe that's why, on emulators, people quite enjoy this game. Especially once they've learnt it and they know what the traps are. They know what to avoid. And they can sort of almost find a speedrun route through it. And they master the game. It's very 90s. I don't mind it. You know, it's one of those I'm bringing up here because I think it's one that should be played at least once. You can say that about a lot of prototypes. There's an experience to be had. Now, the game doesn't really have bosses, so, you know, you get to the end of the level, you get into the lift, and, you know, what are you trying to? Do I have to kill this first? Why is the lift not opening for me? Or is this not the lift? No, what? Oh, that's not leaving the lift, is it? Fake lift. Or the lift doesn't work yet. Things fall from the ceiling. They look like unpainted Rubik's Cubes. Now, yeah, we do have this enemy to kill. But is it really a boss? I don't know. There we go. Not really boss-like. Now the lift works. Does this have a free play dip switch? It doesn't have dip switches. It has a service mode. So you can probably put it as free play in the service mode. Right, avoid that dynamite. Oh, you're falling down the middle now. That's quite good. No, hit that one. See, now that cost me a life. That's immediately one life down. So, yeah, it's a bit cheap, as I said. But I can't say I really dislike this game. I think... Beware the stone door. You see, it gives you little hints, which is kind of cool. It reminds me of, you know, old TV shows like Nightmare. You've got these... I don't know what they are. Stone cows? Stone dogs? Maybe it said beware the stone dogs, actually, not the stone door, so that's probably what they are. Now, I think somebody mentioned that the gravestones have actually trivia on, like the developer's initials. Oh yeah, just like the blackness at elevators. We're back to Half-Life, aren't we? I was watching Zypho do his Half-Life play, again a trap, a Half-Life playthrough. He's never played the game before, so he was enjoying some of the puzzle sections of that. And I usually, the term enjoying loosely. What's this do? Probably something bad. Oh, no, I've got a different fire type. Now, where am I going? I don't remember. Can I have some barbecue? I must be going up. I must be going in the right direction. But I think this game does get overlooked. Maybe in part because it's a Leland game and, you know, outside of, what, Super Off-Road, are there actually many good Leland games? Indie Heat's kind of play. I was going to go further up here. I've got somebody there. Do I rescue you? Do I pretend to try and rescue you? No. You see, you don't rescue a person. That's a bad idea. Let me have another toilet to restore my health. Now, again, the whole toilet thing makes no sense, but the game doesn't make much sense, does it? I think it's one of those that you sort of put up there with Tattoo Assassins in the, you know, what were they thinking? What's this all about? Category. And also, like Tattoo Assassins, it's a prototype. So maybe this type of game, ones that are just a bit too strange, didn't do well in testing? I don't know. Oh, look, another death to something I didn't know was going to kill me. It's a platforming section again. But yeah, I could see this working on, say, a home computer. I can see this being an Amiga game. That was a bit cheap. Is Half-Life 2 Survivor dumped? I don't know. I don't think it's properly dumped if it's dumped. There might be some hacked up, extracted file version of it. Unfair platforming sections. Woo. Now, I don't know if this game would have been any better had more time been spent on it. Oh look, it's teleporting me somewhere useful. Because, you know, as we've seen with other Leland things, they're not always the best. I mean, this seems like 10 times as good as, say, Brute Force, and that was released. I'm being pushed back. Don't push me back. Yeah. Unfortunately, platform sections in this type of game rarely work out well. Konami's Devil World has the same problem with its platforming sections. Yeah, you've got to knock these out the way, otherwise they push you back. So once you work that out, you're okay. Push up here. So I wanted to get that item. Scrolling is a little unusual at times. It sort of hints the direction you're meant to go, and then it scrolls away from what you meant to look at, and it doesn't always scroll the direction you want. It's not conventional. But yeah, overall, compared to other Leland games, this is probably not that bad. Oh, I got squashed by a trap that I didn't see. And I got squashed again. So getting my health back now is pointless. That's probably nothing. Jump over that, go under this, and get in the lift. So, I don't know. I've not spent too long playing this one myself, so I've read reviews of it. I've tried to find as much background information on it as I can, and basically there is no background information on it that I could find. So I decided to fire it up and give it a play. Now this section apparently is completely pointless. It doesn't matter if you fail. So, you know, for some reason it's decided to go with a horizontal platformer with logic that just doesn't seem to make much sense. And there we go, I've fallen off. But even if you fall off, this giant bat picks you up. And hey Mass Ninja, thank you for joining, good to see you. Colour scheme Team 17 Alien Breed. Yeah, it does have that dark, creepy, industrial look, doesn't it? I mean, it is meant to be an asylum, and I suppose some of the Alien Breed things are kind of similar, although that's more military. So I'm not going to spend too much long on this because we're 20 minutes in the stream now. But I just wanted to play it for a little bit. So I appear to have glitched it with some stray sprites by crediting it at the wrong point, but we'll ignore that, and that is almost certainly just because it's a prototype. Oh, let's just fall in the lava. That's again very cheap. So if you, as I said, if you were to learn the game, that's just teleported me. You'll be fine. If you don't know any of the traps, you're just going to get annoyed. I suppose if you were to be trying to go for the t-shirt back in the day, it does encourage you to try and learn the game by repeating it over. Although you can easily guess the boss's name. Mr. G is Mr. Gnarly. Appear to just be running through this section. But yeah, as I said, if I think this one belongs on lists just so that people do try it. Sort of, maybe it belongs on a secondary list of. Now I can fly. That's not the same. A secondary list of games to try once, and then maybe if you do enjoy them, leave on your top list. Now, this is quite an empty section compared to some of the others. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or have to go into these side rooms maybe. Let's just get rid of you. Yeah, it's got a lot of cheap deaths, unfortunately. Again, it's a very Leland thing. The games are designed to keep your money flowing. I mean, they're earlier examples of microtransactions in Indie Heat and Super Off-Road, where use your money to buy power-ups, and I think they're trying to innovate in ways that appeal to the American arcade owners. And American arcade owners like the games to be very cheap, which is one of the reasons a lot of the Konami American versions end up being so cheap, is because that's the feedback they got. It's like, yeah, we want the games to just eat people's money. And you do find it with some Atari ones too, although Atari, not so much. What are we doing here? Kill the clones. I can't go that way. Where am I going? I can jump up there. And go this way. Can I kill you? Apparently you can take as many knives to the back as you want. Oh, it's a conveyor belt with spikes at the end, because of course it is. And you have to jump. Yep. All these people just casually working away. They're probably writing the game, not having a clue what's going on around them. There we go. In fact, this is cool.
M is for money.
M is for money. Yeah, of course M is for money, isn't it? Again, nasty little trap. It says M is for money. And in fact, I think M is for murder. But yeah, the first time you play it, you're going to get caught out by all the traps, all the cheap deaths. Now somebody's throwing darts at me. Yeah. And we have a coffee spill. Swimming in coffee? Why not? I mean, is there anything this game doesn't do? That is the question. Demonic vacuum cleaners and being attacked by pencils. I don't know how this would work with 3 players. I think the screen might get a bit cluttered. Do you even have to kill anything, or can I just move on? I can just move on and pull the lava. Yeah. A table that attacks you. I mean, there's lots of ideas in this game. I don't know how many of them are good, but yeah, okay. Asylum. Make of it what you will. It's not on the all killer list. Should it be? There's definitely a lot of deaths. I mean, if all killer is based on number of times you get killed, yes. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring it up. It's actually, you know, fairly good fun. It's an experience. Piano that attacks you, Super Mario 64. Yeah, you know, you're just expecting the people to attack you, and then suddenly the table is crushing you, and it's like... it's a game that does hurt your brain in places, but I think that was the point. That's probably what they're going for, so mission accomplished. Now I'm going to switch from one vertical run and gun to another, and back to Data East, and this time it's Gunball. Now, Gunball is also known as Nitro Ball. This is the Japanese version, and you know what I'm like. I tend to put Japanese games on when the option is available too. So let's have a look at this one. No, Carlo. What, do you not like Gunball, or are you saying no for something else? Now, Gunball. Happy International Jazz Day.
Welcome to Ghost Town.
Welcome to Ghost Town. Now, this is a game that really wants to be Smash TV. Really, really wants to be Smash TV, but doesn't have the dual joystick controls. No, Robbie, you can't really run the Chihiro games in MAME. I mean, you can boot out run 2, but it runs about 5% speed, has no inputs, has massive graphic glitches, and yeah, it takes about an hour to boot. International Jazz Day. Now I'm wondering what games have I got on my list with jazz music in. I don't know. Can't really put Moonwalker on. That's not that jazzy though. Sailor Moon I think's not eligible. What's got jazzy stuff in? I don't know. It yeah. So yes, this is very Smash TV, but it doesn't have the dual joystick, which kind of lets it down a bit. But you know, we can have a look at it. Rootin' Tootin' again. No, not Rootin' Tootin' again. I mean, I do quite like Rootin' Tootin', but it's not maybe the easiest on the ears at times. But yeah, look, it's just like, say, Smash TV, Total Carnage type thing. You're shooting everything, they're dropping prizes. It's even themed like a game show, just like Smash TV. I've turned into a pinball, because why not? Now I'm bouncing around, I'm smashing things up and getting prizes. Obviously it's a bit different to Smash TV in the sense that it's a scrolling game and has sort of level design a bit different. But yeah. Now this isn't even why you hold the fire button and can walk in the you know, just keep firing in the same direction, which would help. You have to keep hitting fire, and you only fire in the direction you're facing. Down. Let's hit the targets on the tank. Just spell tank, and now we can shoot the tank. Get this weapon, which will help. Yeah, I mean, so you can boot the Chihiro games. I did a video of one recorded with the AVI Right feature to get an idea of what it looks like, but you can't play it. I think there's another. I think one of the Xbox emulators does actually run them. So this is a game that some people really like again, and other people really hate. It's another one of those that also ended up on some of the My Arcade units that use bootleg early old MAME versions. And the emulation in those versions is terrible. There's loads more priority glitches than you get here. So, you know, here you've got obviously the tunnel there actually going above the character, which makes sense. In the old versions, you know, you walk right over it and things like that. But all sorts of priority glitches in the old version you made for this game. Now, interestingly, it does put all the prizes in dollars, even though it's a Japanese game. I guess they just want. They probably thought this is what American game shows are like. It must be what, you know. This is just how over the top an American game show would be. But yeah, the whole thing is almost themed like pinball tables as well. Although you're not a pinball except when you turn into a ball occasionally. So it's one of those bizarre concepts again. Keep trying. After playing Asylum, I'm trying to press jump, and there's no jump in this. There's just the smart button, the B button. So that is a little off-putting. But that's not the problem with the game. That's the problem with me playing Asylum before playing this. Yeah, again, I think this game would be far, far better with dual joysticks, Cow. You just feel like you're dying a lot of the time because you can't shoot behind you and things are behind you. It's a valiant attempt at doing a more Japanese Smash TV, but it's probably not quite as good as the source material, even though Smash TV itself is a brutally unfair game. I think people have one credited, but it's not one you can easily one credit. Smash TV itself, of course, pretty much being a sequel to Robotron. So it's got that to its credit too. I mean, it sort of inherits a lot of the good aspects of Robotron, and now this doesn't have that experience to you know, borrow from. We've got some good energetic music going on here. I do like the soundtrack on this one. Again, this boss is taking far too long to kill. You can cheese it a bit, but your shots are quite weak by default, and you have to say you can't keep firing. You have to stop firing and run away, and then fire back up again. You actually really enjoy Warp 1. It's a very simple game, Cow. But yeah, it was quite fun to play. Seemed a little bit too easy when I was playing it, but maybe it gets harder. Again, you've got the whole pinball thing going on there with the bonus thing at the end of the round, you know, match the last digits. I do wonder if maybe at some point this was more of a pinball game than a shooter, but I have no idea. But the title kind of gives it away. It's guns and ball. So instead of pinball, gun ball. I don't know why the export version ended up being called Nitro Ball. Maybe it's another one of those cases of not wanting to put gun in the title for censorship reasons. That wouldn't surprise me. It was around the time when people were starting to get a bit sensitive about that type of thing. Over here. Yeah, it's flashing mad. Or maybe they just wanted to... Maybe Gumball was just a bit too generic and they thought Nitro Balls stood out more. If you want a simple space shooter, then yeah, Bob, I'd recommend you give it a try. I mean, obviously I did play it, so I have updated and tried it. It'd be nice when sound gets emulated on it, so it does play in silence for the time being, and I think any sound is going to be discrete stuff that somebody will have to trace the board for. So if you really care about sound emulation, you might want to wait for that. And here we go, pinball section again. Well, not pinball because there's no flippers, but ball section. After writing the letters ball. So, I think Data East did add enough here to make it not just a Smash TV clone. I mean, there's more variety and sort of the stage designs, I'd say, than Smash TV. Smash TV is one of those that, at least to me, I enjoy it, but it does start to feel very repetitive. Whereas this, less so. But this just starts to feel very credit feedy after a while. You like the title Nitro Ball better? Yeah, it doesn't describe the game as well, but it is probably a better title. Yeah, this isn't on the all killer list. Again, maybe because I think Smash TV is... No, Smash TV probably isn't, because Smash TV is dual stick. I'll check that. So Smash TV isn't, then this one probably should be. It's the closest thing that's not, you know, with standard controls. Extreme Radical Ninja Nitro Killer Ball. Well, that's probably got the game banned in every region. I mean, ninjas, not happening over here, is it? It'd have to be Extreme Radical Hero, Nitro, not Killer, Pacifist Ball. I don't know. Maybe even not extreme. Maybe slightly over the top. I think Radical's okay. Welcome to Ghost Town. Now it wants to be the older Ghostbusters game. It's quite odd walking through bits that you find on a pinball table and shooting them. Something's quacking. Bingo. Yeah, we've got the transparency there. I guess if you are in ball form, you can do more with that. I'm not entirely sure. It does remind me a little bit of the Ghostbusters game Data put out in the 80s at this point. I don't know if they were purposely kind of going for that, or if it's just coincidence because they wanted a ghost theme level. Of course, that was firing lasers at ghosts while walking along and shooting. Yeah. The real Nitro Ball. Hi Haoh-ninpo-cho, thank you for joining. I hope you're doing well. This is Gumball, also known as Nitro Ball, a Data East game. A run and gun shooter, which unfortunately, as I've mentioned a few times, does only use joystick and buttons, and would have probably benefited from dual joystick controls, but I think it's still worth showing off. And as I just mentioned, it probably fits the all-killer list better than something like Smash TV because it does just use the joystick, and that is one of their criteria. Break those down, make that flash. And, oh, we've got bit of a vampire. Lots of bats. Some nice parallax scrolling on the background there. And that'll be using the actual column scroll feature rather than the row scroll feature, because this is obviously a rotated game, and not all hardware had column scroll features, so it's one of the times when it's advantageous that the Data East hardware did. Obviously, once you've rotated the screen, your row scroll is going to be up, down, not left, right. Yeah, it's got a bit of a Mercs feel to it. I mean, it is that run and gun thing. Although Mercs is more serious, well, this is a game show. I'm not really doing much damage to this boss. Just, I think the problem is my weapon is useless. Oh, well, now I have a selection of weapons to pick from. This will do. Also, you can only attack the boss in that form. That's just pick up a random piano. Oh. I'm burning through credits here. Fireball. It was not by my hand that I am once again given flesh. Back in. Yes. I do really like the sprite work here, actually. This Dracula, the bats coming from the coming from the cloak. And in this form, obviously, this later form is not actually closing the cloak, so you do get the chance to get more hits in. Not that it's helping. I mean, how many credits did that boss take me? Yeah, Data East did have some really good music, and this is one of them. It's this intensity about the soundtrack, and it really fits. It's quite spooky, but not overly slow like you get with some spooky soundtracks. It's still got that game show push forward sound to it. I really like Wolfgang. I'm not so keen on Vapor Trail as a game, so I've never really listened to the soundtrack on it that much. So I can't comment on that one as much. Maybe it's one I'll have to go and play and see if I like the soundtrack. Now here you've got sort of two different layers. You've got some enemies under the surface there as well. So again, you've got a blending effect, priorities. And again, that looks okay in current versions of MAME. If you go to a really old version of MAME, those aliens that are under the ground there, I think they appear over the ground without the blending, so you can't really tell what you're shooting. I don't know exactly when all this improved, but it did improve quite dramatically compared to much older versions of MAME. Hey Franco as well, thank you for joining. No, this isn't a rotary joystick, this is just a standard 8-way joystick and 2 buttons. Franco. And, yeah, you played Butter Sam with your wife. Did she enjoy it? I mean, it is one of those it's a good co-op game, throwing bombs around. And antagonising each other a little bit if you're throwing bombs at each other just because you can. What am I doing here? Oh, is this an R-type like section? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah, this is an R-type like section. We've got lots of blending going on here again. Oh, we've got another pinball section. Ooh, let's spell deep. Oh, I've got a gun that I can't get. Now, the walking X's, I don't know. I think the guns could be, the default gun should be more powerful on this. That is one of my criticisms of it. It's a bit pea shooter like. Ugly. What does ugly get me? Nothing. Just lights up. Okay. Didn't need to do that. Laughter for hours, grudges for life. Are you saying it's the video game equivalent of Monopoly? Or is the video game equivalent of Monopoly just Monopoly? there's plenty of content on this as well. It doesn't ever really feel like it's recycling too much, which is one of the things I like about it. Each stage has got its own distinct enemies, and you're moving through the different areas. And I lit up die and got missile attack. Yeah, the artwork and sprite design and audio design are probably a bit better than the game. I mean, that's kind of, there's quite a few Data East games like that. You could probably say the same about even Boogie Wings. Just for as much fun as Boogie Wings is, the gameplay is a little. It's not always the most playable of games because it's just a little bit too much going on. Even though it's one of my favourite Data East games. And this kind of sometimes feels the same. It's like they've gone for a lot of style, but then playability is not quite there. But it runs well for all it's throwing around. And this is only a 68k base one. This isn't one of the ARM systems. And it doesn't have too much slowdown. The player feels a bit too slow there to move out the way of things. Yeah, let's just choose this. Could have done with some more balance, I think. Maybe it works better if you've got a second player. Again, how do I move out of the way of that? Evening, Stephen. Thank you for joining. Have you been enjoying any more of the games from these streams? How are you doing anyway? You doing well? And hey, Eugene. I don't think we'll ever see Kung Fu Master 2, unfortunately, as I've said. There seem to be issues with it. I think it's one of those where the developer is still keeping an eye out for anybody who has it and doesn't want it to be public. So yeah, again we've got blending effects on the background here which now work, which is one of the things I really wanted to show off with this, because I think a lot of people have tried it in really old versions of MAME where the blending is all wrong, and these days it actually looks rather nice. And I don't know what's actually moving me along here, I guess it's some wind effects, isn't it? Some airlock. But I'm not sure. Yeah, it's whatever's blowing those things along is. Oh yeah, the airlock there is open, isn't it? And I got sucked out of it. Well, this is a 68k. I think the ARM hardware is generally the ARM's a bit faster. I think, you know. It probably outperforms the 68k with at least well-written code. But in terms of the games, you don't really notice the difference. I mean, you couldn't really say that, yeah, Fighter's History is obviously an ARM and this is obviously 68k. I mean, I would have thought Boogie Wings would probably be an ARM, but that's 68k. I don't know. I don't know what dictated why they use different processors on different games, to be honest. Data East did seem to jump around a little bit like that. And then you've got like the Avengers in Galactic Storm that uses an SH2 for no obvious reason. But yeah, this was Gumball. I think I'll end that one now, because if you want to see the rest of the game, you can fire it up and have played it yourself. It wasn't so much a night out, Stephen. It was more of a going to the park with my friend and a kid, and we had a good time. But that type of thing just, you know, it leaves me for dead. So, you know, it's an exhausting day of, you know, looking after a kid, chasing, you know, running around, everything else. So I got back home in late afternoon and just sort of slept for about 12 hours. Let me check. Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters. I'm not very good at the game, unfortunately. And Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters is already on the all killer list, so I can't play it. It's not eligible for this stream. Although, given this is the last of these April alternative streams, it is one that I might look at another day. Although, again, I'm very bad at it. I didn't think that was a standard joystick control one, though, so that surprises me. I thought that was one of like 49-way joysticks something. Yeah, Smash TV isn't on the old killer list actually, so Nitro Ball Gumball that we just played, I think it should be on there, because if you're not going to include Smash TV on joystick grounds, then you want something that's sort of an equivalent, and that's a good equivalent game that does use a joystick. So that should have probably been on there. You have 2 kids yourself, Stephen. Yeah, I don't have any kids, so it's even more of a shock to my system when I'm running around. And a very excitable kid on the park, and obviously he's not been out too much with the whole COVID thing going on. So, yeah, it was a good day. I enjoyed it. It just wore me out completely. So next game, one that somebody mentioned on Reddit the other day, in fact, because it's one people seem to forget the name of, and that is Strike Force. Now this is a Midway game from '91, and what was that the controls to? This is kind of a sequel to Defender of sorts. You're always worn out. Well, even if ARM is 8 MHz and 68K is 16 MHz, the ARM is better. In some cases, it depends what you're doing with it, I think, Carlo. So yeah, this is very Defender-like. It's never officially called a sequel to Defender, but you're flying around planets, you're blowing things up. It's almost like if, you know, Defender and Smash TV had a baby. It's kind of got that over-the-top feel that the Midway games of this era did. Look at the missiles flying around. Anyway, we'll hit fire. Howdy the Ogre, thank you for joining. Yeah, Escape from Planet Robot Monsters. I don't really get it. I think it's the problem. And maybe that's just the game. It's just like, walk along, die, walk along, die. Not really work out what I'm doing. So though, it's very Defender-like. Although, in this case, I think it's more about killing the enemy than rescuing people. At least that's the impression I get. You can pick up these little guys here, but I don't know why you want to. I've never quite understood the point of this one. You seem to be giving guys at the start of the level, and then you're dropping them off. And that's the weapon. And then you can transform into this shape, which has far less movement when you shoot in any direction. And then you can just jump on the ship and fly to another planet. Let's go to the Earth light now. I think Midway probably abandoned this game quite early on after releasing it, because if you look, I mean, the only revision they made was revision 1, and for a Midway game which only have 1 revision is almost unheard of, if you consider, you know, how many revisions and bug fixes and things there were to Mortal Kombat or other games, NBA games. So it's kind of, it just feels like it got put out there and then they moved on. So that planet's secured. I can move on to another planet. Maybe they just didn't feel it was that good a game. So lovely, some lovely parallax scrolling there. Look at all the layers there. Almost looks 3D. I don't think I was meant to kill those. Some of the explosions are very Defender-like too. So again, you can see the influence. Not so much those, but when you kill the little Kais, they explode into the dots. Now, why am I being dropped off with people? This is what I don't understand. Something for... I guess continue? Yeah, I'll continue. But it's never entirely clear what you're doing. The game doesn't really explain itself well. It's like, yeah, shoot thing, what the dome's opening? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Maybe they played Star Control then, Franco. Maybe that was one of the design influences. I do like the big explosions you get. The shots going everywhere. It's a very stylish game. It definitely doesn't really play like Defender. You've got all these different weapons you can use. And again, planet secured and just moving on to another planet. Again, it's not explained why you'd want to go to one planet over another. You use the guys to pick up and increase your armament. So, what do they actually do? I mean, they seem to... I've got some on the ship now, but what do I do with them? I mean... See, I don't know how I increase my armament with them. Yeah, I really have no idea what I'm doing on this one. I mean, Defender I get. This one, I don't. I mean, I like the visuals. And I can see why people remember it. But it's definitely not as obvious as Defender in terms of what you do. Fantastic explosions. Why are the green aliens? What did I do to secure that planet? I just seem to be doing nothing. What's this? Nothing. Things blowing up. Let's go here. Go to a flash planet. What's a flash planet, Carlo? Oh, helicopter. So yeah, I can't honestly say I know what I'm doing on this game. Or why the ship's dropping things. I know I've got loads of cool extra weapons. I can also blow up. I've got this weapon. No idea what that does. Okay. Oh, we've got my missiles. There we go. I think it could do an animation when you change form as well. That's just a bit rough. But, Overkill and the Amiga. Ah, I remember Overkill and the Amiga actually. It's one of the AGA games, wasn't it? A flashing planet. Alright, I saw one down there. I'll have to go to it next time. Yeah, I think I had Overkill. I don't remember much about it though. Yeah, it did. I do remember it looking a lot like this. Or maybe I had a demo of it if I didn't have the full game, but I definitely played Overkill at some point back in the day on the Amiga. So I'm picking up the guys who I'm trying to, they're flying off, and I'm dying. And I don't even know if I'm making any progress in this. I probably wasn't meant to shoot that guy. The dome opens, I guess that's a bad thing, and I'm meant to kill it. I've got a bomb, look, it's got some bombs on it. That's probably a good thing. Did I get that? Okay, good. Right, so flashing. There was a flashing planet down here, wasn't there? Yes. Is this a flashing planet? Yes. So what's the flashing planet do? The pace of the game actually reminds me a lot of Wiz and Liz, which is another way in and out of levels very, very quickly. Although obviously this doesn't play much like Wiz and Liz. I guess that means I did something bad. Is this like a boss stage then? Because that's quite a big ship. And it seems to be non-linear. Is it just a case of clearing all the planets in any order? That's not working. Oh, lots of explosions. Yeah, I don't remember Overkill being as illogical as this. It's a shame I can't really run Amiga stuff in MAME. But yeah, this... I think if they'd called this Defender 3, people would maybe remember it better, but it is one of those where people always saying, what was the game that was like Defender with the green lizards and things like that? And yeah, Strike Force... I mean, Strike Force also... I didn't say use Strike Force for the title. It was a completely different game. Like one of the G-Log type ones. Yeah, it's just pure destruction. The problem is there's not much sense of progress because it's not really letting me know if I'm doing good or bad. It's, you know, there's no level counter. There's no you're this close to completing it. There's just blow stuff up, escape planet, blow stuff up, escape planet. You get blown up. I do like it. I just don't really ever know what I'm meant to be doing beyond blow stuff up. Yes, Stephen, it is quite the crazy game. So, you know, have I cleared planets? Do planets get taken over again by aliens if I leave them? The game leaves me with a lot of questions that never directly answers. Totally open. Yeah, I mean maybe that's the issue for an arcade game being this open. A lot of the best arcade games are ones that take time to learn though, I will say that. A lot of games that didn't make it past prototype stage, you kind of end up feeling the same way about. It's like they were clearly too complex for the audience, you know, the location test to understand, fully get it. And so the games just ended up not being released. And this kind of strikes me as one where I'm almost surprised it was released. For the same reasons. I mean, I'm glad it was, and a lot of people clearly have really good memories of it. And it is one of those where if you want a game that is all about things blowing up everywhere, it fits the bill perfectly. You know, that kind of to me is a good thing in an arcade game. But I don't know. It's always been a difficult one for me to really make my mind up on. You've just switched on one of your cards, Stephen. Yeah, if you want to mindless destruction, it's a good one. Keep in mind the start button is also the transform button, so you can transform into this slower form using the start button. It's probably quite easy to overlook that one. It's one of it because it's a a multi-purpose start button. No, I'm definitely enjoying it, Carlo. I do love these over-the-top games full of destruction, you know, robot designs like this. It's got a lot of style to it. It's got a great pace to it. I mean, there's practically no slowdown with all this stuff flying across the screen. You know, and there aren't any other games that really play like this. And again, I've said with these lists, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Because if you want to make a list of, you know, a top 100, 200 arcade games to play, you want ones that are going to feel different. You don't want, you know, 50 games that all feel the same as each other. So if you put this on, you're not going to think, well, why didn't I just play another, you know, this other game? You're definitely going to have an experience with this you remember. So I think it's actually a good game. I mean, it's probably one of the most underrated of the Midway games of the era, in that sense. Because, you know, they're putting out Mortal Kombat game after Mortal Kombat. And you've got things like this. I'd say this was more interesting. It pushes the hardware more, there's more going on. It's just more... Again, Smash TV and Toaplan is kind of also very busy games. I never really got Total Carnage. Toaplan Carnage is one where I had the Amiga port too, and that was horrible. If a planet has more moons, it's harder. So, you're talking like these satellite things are actual moons. So is this a harder one? Again, visually, it looks great. I mean, look at the detail here, the floating ice things in the background. on what's assumed, I can only assume is more of a lake of oil. You have to also remember to use your weapons, of course, which I'm not doing. You've got that whole bar there you can cycle through. I've got 9 of these. Got 1 of these. Whatever it does. But yeah, I can't really say anything bad about this one. To me, it does belong on the list. It absolutely does belong on the list, just for being unique and being playable and being fun and being a game you can, you know, happily waste a good half an hour just blasting everything in sight and enjoying it. Very, you know, there's lots of stress relief to be had in with this game. 1 easy, 2 medium, 3 hard. Anyway, shall we move on to something absolutely far worse in every way that I'm kind of reminded of by these, you know, Defender games. Now, the next game is bad. So the next game I'm going to outright say I don't think belongs on any top list. And our emulation is rather bad of it too. Now, we did just mention the Amiga. So here is Space Ranger for the Arcadia system, which was basically an Amiga 500. And this one is bad. Now this one is so bad that for many years the second button wasn't even hooked up and the game wasn't even really playable, and nobody noticed and nobody complained until like about 7 years. It had been emulated for about 7 years. Now the problem with these Arcadia games is most of them are closer to being, you know, Atari ST port level Amiga games. They don't show the Amiga in a good light at all. So yeah, you use 5 button 1 to shoot slavers and 5 button 2 to net critters. Also, the sound emulation in this will get stuck and loop certain samples, which happens with our Amiga emulation. Because as I've said many times, the Amiga emulation in MAME is, yeah, it's awful. And some of these Arcadia games you do notice that with. So let's coin it up. And you get this screen. It was a multi-game system, so you could have multiple cartridges and select between them. But we've, you know, mainly emulates one at a time. So Space Ranger. So the slavers are harvesting the inhabitants, and yeah, total instructions. Watch your radar to find them. So, see that the shot sound loops, unfortunately. So I'm going to turn the sound down a bit because yeah, it's kind of bad. Now, the bees are the enemies. You can shoot the bees. Now you've got the second button which drops this thing. It looks like it does nothing because it just sort of goes off the bottom of the screen and does nothing. But in fact, that is what you're meant to be using to catch the critters. So if you aim it perfectly, no, don't steal the critter. If you aim it perfectly, that wasn't perfectly. Perfectly. No, perfectly. It does that. That is saving a critter. And that's me killing a critter. Now you've got this hand thing that chases you around and pushes you about, and it's really annoying. But then you can save another critter. You can fire it off at an angle, which you know is a strategy. No, don't steal my critter. Oh, that's my critter. Yeah, okay. And like defend, you've got a radar. Let's kill you, and I'm being pushed around by hand again. Now there's more on the surface. I can see them on the map. Radar down there. And yeah, the music's not showing off the Amiga's capabilities either. It's just lots of beeps. So I finished the level. I rescued 5 critters. Now, I'm not sure the sound looping was always the problem. I think when some other Amiga emulation was improved, the sound got worse. But it's not got good sound anyway. You're not missing out much. That's my critter. Go away. Okay, I don't think that those. You can't capture those, can you? Oh, you can capture those. So it's not always clear what is good and what's bad unless you look at the green or red dots on the radar. Obviously, this is kind of Defender inspired, but if Defender wasn't very good, no, none of the Arcadia games. Yeah, the Arcadia managed to get the worst of the Amiga game. Really did manage to get some of the worst Amiga games. I mean, it's got like a Pong clone. And of all the things, you know, the Amiga's got some great games. It's not the best system in the world. It's got its limitations, but it did have some really good games. And the Arcadia ones are just terrible. I mean, I'm kind of hoping Rockford does show up one day, because the Rockford version on the Amiga is not awful. So if it's the same as that, that might be an almost playable Arcadia game. The other issue with the Arcadia games is they're programmed so that they kill you off after a certain amount of time. They just rank up the difficulty. And if we go into the service mode, look, max gameplay time, 0 to 15 minutes. So if the game is programmed to use that value, after 3 minutes, it just maxes out the game rank and just tries to kill you off. So I didn't quite reach the 3-minute mark at that point. Apparently I've played it for 2 minutes and 52 seconds. And it felt like an eternity. At least I think that's what max gameplay time is, because I can't see what it would be otherwise. And people have said the games just rank up the difficulty ridiculously. So I'm assuming that's exactly what that does. I mean, there's Ninja Mission, I think was an Arcadia one, wasn't it, Wolfaz? But yeah, it's music that, you know, doesn't take advantage of the hardware. It's visuals that don't. They could have done this system with the Atari ST. Yeah, so Space Ranger. We went from a really good Defender-like game, you know, what could in some senses be considered a proper sequel, to a really bad rip-off. But sometimes you have to look at the highs and the lows. And yeah, there were some highs and there were some lows there. Right. Okay, vertical. Right, so Chinese Hero is a game by Taiyo from '84. Now, there are several versions of this in MAME. This one's called Chinese Hero, spelt like that. It's the original Taiyo version. Not Taito, Taiyo. And if you let the attract mode run, it will show you that there is a bonus slot machine game in it. Now, interestingly, Taito did actually license this game. So you've got Chinese Hero, Taito, which is licensed from Taiyo. You mean you want the Crash on Thunderhoop fixing, Eugene, or something else? This is Chinese Hero spelt with an E on the end, and this is the Taito version. And if we cycle through attract mode, the slot machine thing isn't there, so I guess the Taito version doesn't have the slot machine. Anyway. So let's have a play of Chinese Hero, which is a 3-button game. Chin Hero, yes. Potentially another one of those funny names, although I don't think it was intentionally about people's chins. That was probably a genuine abbreviation. Although Chin Hero does sound quite funny. A game about somebody who attacks with their chin. Now you've got your kick button, you've got your punch button, and it's an arena beat 'em up game really. And you've got your jump button. So let's jump and let's attack you. Let's move out of the way of this. Now I'm not going to be very good at this one because I've not played it in forever, but I remember actually really liking this one a few years ago. So I'm actually going to turn the volume up a little bit here because it seems like quite a quiet one. I'm probably going to regret that immediately, but let's do that. I still think we need a way to change the volume from there. Chin Hero starring Jimmy Hill. Right, I'm already failing at this. So the attract mode does actually give you some useful tips on how to play the game and strategies to use too, so I should probably pay attention to that. But, you know, well, I went for a swim, and that was the end of my game. Is he a relative of Bruce Lee? I don't know. I also don't know why it's spelled with an extra E on the end of Hero in this version. Oh look, apparently you can get guns. But anyway, let's give this another try. Because, you know, as I said, this is actually an enjoyable game. I do wonder if the sprites are meant to be 8 pixels higher, actually. I'm not sure. It does look a bit odd that they can walk over the power meter, but maybe that's correct. Because that is technically the bottom of the playfield. I've not seen the original references. Okay, I am failing here. But just kill me for a second. Right. I'm going to look at the attract mode. Because it does give you some useful tips. So, what's it telling me? So, just telling me to use the tumbling kick. Okay. Only use the jump on the big things. Okay, it's not actually telling me that much at all. Oh, Taiyo is Neon Game, is it? I didn't know that was the guy. Now Culture Brain. I thought AI was Culture Brain, or is AI something else? I do get these mixed up sometimes. So, this is a jumping kick attack, so that actually does damage to them, right? It's not just a jump. I think there is some gameplay to this. It's about avoiding attacks and timing your own attacks. It kind of reminds me of a Butter-san, but with only melee combat. Unless you get the gun, of course. This is another one that before it was emulated, there were a lot of requests for. I do like the name Culture Brain, actually, yeah. Why is the coin effect the splash? But, it is one where you have to practice it and get better at it. Because if you get caught out like that, you instantly lose a life. It's not an easy game. Like I've said with a lot of these, the ones that do often kill you off really quickly like that, once you get to grips with them, and you understand the pacing of them, understand when you can attack and when you can't, they're sometimes the most rewarding ones too. There, got me. So you don't do flying kicks into the water. General, tip for anybody playing this. So Eugene, what do you mean about Thunder Hoop? Because I mean, aside from the priority glitch and it crashing on level 4 if you die, Thunder Hoop works pretty well, and Thunder Hoop 2 works fine. So was there something you were specifically referring to? Jump over you and punch it in the back. Hey Marcelo, thank you for joining. Glad to hear you. Glad to see you posting the chat. That's what I meant to say. From Brazil, we get a few people from South America, Brazil, Argentina. So welcome. Maybe you'll find somebody else here who is from close to where you are. Hope you're doing well as well, and I hope things are getting better in Brazil, because last I heard it was pretty rough over there. And here we go, got to the next level, you see, so a bit of progression. There's water in different places you have to be careful of. Oh, not going your way. Oh. And the fire chases you around. It's sort of an instant kill thing. Don't stand in front of people with arrows. tends to be good advice. So probably a good idea to try and take this one out quite quickly. There we go. We've got 2 at once there. Okay, let's get rid of you. Ah, he got me. Is that it? Yep, that's it. Why did Boogie Boy take so long to emulate? It's rather complex hardware. I mean, it doesn't do anything in a really standard way. None of the Tatsumi games really do. The way, you know, the road is drawn is quite odd. The special effects of tunnels are sort of almost done in custom hardware, so it's one where you really have to trace the board and understand how the board works. Oh, look, we've got Giant Gorilla. He shrinks every time you kick him. But yeah, I mean, Boogie Boy was one of those that for a long time nobody wanted to tackle. It kind of scared off many of the best developers. So, as do a lot of the Tatsumi games now, which is why some of them still aren't that well emulated. I just got walked on by the gorilla. I don't think Apache 3's got proper ground layer yet, has it? Bit of like it under the gorilla. But yeah, I think there's gameplay to this, Carlo. I think it's one that takes a little bit of getting used to. And I also, yeah, Aussie guy, I didn't know this had an S port either. Super Chinese. I'll have to, again, that's one I'll have to check out after the stream. Maybe that's where some of the popularity from this one comes from then, because like I said, before this was emulated, it was frequently requested. But then once it was emulated, people stopped requesting it or stopped even talking about it. There's quite a few games like that. Maybe people have better memories of them than they've really got. Oops, ran out of power. Better, you know, fonder memories. Then they play them again and go, oh, well, what did I ever see in that game? I really don't know. To me, it was quite a good game. Now again, it's a bit different. I can't think of any other game that plays quite like this. You do get other arena fighters, Kajiki and the like, but yeah, the Tatsumi games used a weird mix of CPUs too, and that didn't help. And also the dumps were incomplete for a long time because there's a lot of PROMs on the board, and they're used for important things like the road generation. So without them, you couldn't really get the roads right of anything or the scaling right. They're basically essential. And so when the game, you know, they'd only been dumped to standards of sort of 20 years ago, and it's not the most common board either. And people didn't want to desolder everything and dump it all, and yeah. So part of why it took so long to emulate is simply because the dumps weren't complete. Yeah, there's a lot of different license strings on the Tatsumi one. You get a screen full of license tapes, don't you? Oh, jump over your arrow. Punch in the back, and there we go. Boogie Boy, I think it's a bit too difficult, a bit too unkind, because if you miss one time gate, you basically can't complete it from what I can tell. You don't get enough time, and eventually you will run out of time, if not on the first lap, on one of the later laps. You basically need every time gate. I don't know if I put it on an easy difficulty changes that, but with the default difficulty, it definitely is the case. I notice when the gorilla appears, it makes all the other sprites smaller. Not the backgrounds, but all the other sprites. I guess it's just to try and make it look bigger. But it's a bit strange that it doesn't change the environment. No, I'm going to get past this level. Anyway, I've probably been playing this one for too long. But it is one of those strangely addictive games where you always want to have one more go. So, yeah. I do like this one. I do think this one should be on top lists, personally. Again, it's got slightly different gameplay to anything else. It's fun. Why wouldn't you want to play it? And it takes time to master. So yeah, that's my conclusion on that one. That would be on a list if I was putting together the list. One thing I did notice is there's so many obvious games that aren't on the All Killer list. I don't know if it's worth playing them or not. Rygar's not on the list, but surely everybody knows Rygar. Am I going to be showing anything off if I Rygar? Is it just too well known? I don't know. I might fire Rygar, but maybe not immediately. Let's have a look down my list actually of possible games to play first. Yeah, I know what I'm going to play. Now this is probably going to be quite loud, so initially volume goes down. Yeah, Rygar's a great game, but I think it's really well known. So I think it's one of those where people consider the NES game to be better, isn't it? Which might be why it's not on the list, but it's still a good game. Right. I don't know why the debug text still appears in a release build, but it does. So this is the Electric Yo-Yo. Now, this is one of those that the Catverse says is a maze game. It really isn't a maze game. It's a Taito game on Kicks type hardware, and it's kind of interesting again. Shanghai Kid. I think I played Shanghai Kid on a different stream. Maybe not one of these streams. I think I have played it. I'm fairly sure it's not on the All Killer list because it's not a well-known game. But yeah, it's pretty decent for the time. Because I remember talking about how it's how all the game code on Shanghai Kid is in a battery-backed module. So I must have played it. Anyway. Is it better? I don't know. People say it's better, but I've not really spent any time in the NES version to say. I've not spent that much time in the arcade game. But if they're completely different games, then I guess it's possible to like both. Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing a Rygar, Stephen. So this one, you use the yo-yo string to move quickly between the points on the map. If there's no dot to latch onto, you move very slowly in that direction. If there's a dot to latch onto, you move quickly. So the strategy is to try and clear things as quickly as possible by following a route that always allows you to grab onto something. So it's not a maze game as such. It's a puzzle game-ish. It doesn't stop you moving where you can't grab onto anything, but you're much slower as a result, which affects the time you clear it by. It makes you more vulnerable to the enemies. Obviously, there's some Kicks influences on this. So you look at the shapes that are flying around there, the little triangles. It's kind of Kicks like, and the hardware is similar. It's the same hardware. But you do have to be careful because as soon as you latch onto a dot that's far away, you will move very quickly. So you don't want to be moving through an enemy because that will result in your death, like that. Your death. And again, it's a game that takes a while to get the hang of. In fact, this is a lot quieter than I thought it was going to be, so volume can go up. So I don't know if people will have played this one because it's a Taito game or just not giving it a look because it's not a well-known Taito game. Yeah, from what I've heard, it's definitely worth playing the NES version, Stephen. I do want to at some point, say, do streams where I look at more console games, because I do think there are many console games that maybe your traditional MAME users haven't looked at because they just don't think they're going to be as good or worth checking out on their own merits. Now, I'm not very good at this game. I don't really have much of a strategy, and it does require fast reflexes and planning, neither of which I'm very good at in games. No, I mean, I hadn't heard of it. Well, I'd heard of it, but never played it until I was researching that Maze Game stream. Obviously, for the flashing one, the flashing dots, you seem to get bigger bonuses at the end of the level, so I guess there's a bomb jack style element to it, because that's a flashing dot up there. I forget it quickly, but it's a time based rather than an order based. But if you can get those flashing dots, you get bigger bonuses. Don't know where they're going to be. I mean, there's one up there, so I've got that one, I've got that one, I've got that one. I've got that one over there. I missed that one. There's one in the top corner now, but I don't have to get there quickly. It's gone. There's one down here. Got it. No, didn't get it. So I probably let myself get distracted by trying to get the extra power-ups there and died. Risk-reward thing. Yeah, the Taito's America stuff. I mean, this is more like Williams hardware, isn't it? It's bitmap based, colour cycly stuff. And Taito did Brazil. Yeah, they were basically just bootleggers. I'm sorry, you can't really say much else about the Brazilian Taito. They created bootlegs of Donkey Kong and Time Pilot and even Space Invaders and Galaxian type things. Very strange company. I don't think any of it was done with permission. I'm sure I played this better when I was practicing for the Maze Game stream before deciding it wasn't a Maze Game. So, I mean, I hope you like the death sounds on this one. There does seem to be a bit of a glitch in the bottom right left corner there, but I think that's just something you'd hide on a real monitor. It's another case of, you know, that being the overscan area and you wouldn't see it. I don't think that's an emulation glitch. But, you know, you do get that a lot. I mean, I think outside of the Neo Geo games, the worst cases for it being reported all the time are the Konami Turtles game, which often leaves garbage in the overscan area. Oh, got greedy, saw 2 in a row, and got taken out for my greed. Again, this is a unique concept. Can't think of any other games where you control a yo-yo. I mean, they could have done this with a frog and, you know, a tongue sticking out and reaching the other dots, and it would have worked fine. But they went with a yo-yo. And I guess frogs are more associated with, you know, Frogger, so maybe it makes sense. This is very difficult. Oh, I just don't have a suitable strategy. Now the controls can feel a little bit sticky. You have to hold the direction for a... If there's nothing to latch onto, you have to hold the button for a second before it actually does anything. And if there is something to latch onto, it's immediate. And that is one thing that takes a bit of getting used to with this one. I don't appear to be getting any better at it. But, I mean... Yeah, deciding what to actually cover on this stream is difficult, as I said. I mean, there are just a lot of games I'd consider to be well known that are missing. And I was looking at even the Neo Geo games. Hey SB, thank you for joining. I hope you're doing well. I was looking at the Neo Geo games, the ones that aren't on the list, and Kabuki Clash isn't on the Your Killer list. I really like Kabuki Clash. I think it stands out as one of the more unique looking Neo Geo fighters that plays really well. It's Hudson Soft, and Hudson didn't really do many fighting games. Ninja Masters was always one of my favourite Neo Geo fighting games, not on the list. Savage Rain. Okay, Kazuna Encounter is better, but Savage Rain, you know, has the interactive scenery. So again, it's one I always go to. It's not on the list. It's just how, I guess there are just so many fighting games, which, like, you know, there's so many shooters that didn't make the list because there's so many shooters. But it just surprised me at times what wasn't on there. So we might look at some of those in a moment. The Gaming Hell YouTube thing. Yeah, Kabuki Clash, it's got a lot of style to it. It's just fun. I mean, I'm not good at fighting games, but I really enjoyed it. And you've got the power-ups that drop and things like that. So it's got a bit more to it than just you know, a plain fighting game. I really liked it. I mean, I think it's an excellent game from Hudson, and Hudson did many good games, maybe more so, you know, PC Engine stuff than arcade. Hudson were a good developer, and I don't think their stuff should really be over. So the electric yo-yo. I'm as good at this game as I am with a real yo-yo. Ah, okay. I didn't know that. Gaming Hell. But, not actually a developer I'm familiar with, so maybe if you name some of the other games I might have heard of them, but as a developer name, it's not one that you know, immediately springs to mind with any list of titles. But, okay, I think I might move on from the electric yo-yo. I do kind of like it, but I'm absolutely terrible at it, and it's really unforgiving. As in, really unforgiving. I like the way the whole thing animated and rotates and falls apart. It's a good classic-looking game. Very Taito America. Very kicks. But you know, I can't say it's a bad thing. Yeah, scores based on length of string is, yeah. So find the route gets you the most score. It's definitely a classic arcade game. Oh, Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate's actually on the shortlist for today's stream, Gaming Hell. I didn't realise it was the same developer. That's Mario and Sonic Olympics game. Okay. Not played Critical Blow. But yeah, I was going to have a look at Heaven's Gate. I kind of want to find an original hardware reference for Heaven's Gate, actually, because I don't think the audio balance is quite right. In fact, why not? Why don't we just put that one on now, then? So yeah, this is Heaven's Gate. Oh, and yeah, they are credited here as well. I didn't realise that, but yes. I mean, I think more recently, MAME is crediting some of the developers, even if they're not credited on the screen. I did make a pull request to add the developer credits to Metafox and that Arablaster thing. See, this is Heaven's Gate. Now, I think the music balance is probably far too low on this versus the SPU effects. But I would need, you know, we need original references to really correct it. For the extent of the jaw. Now, I'm not going to be good at this because it's a fighting game I'm unfamiliar with. But it is a fighting game that I think gets... Oh, they haven't credited there. So, it's a fighting game that gets overlooked. So, yes. Now, this actually reminded me in some ways of Taito's Fighter's Impact. I don't know, I think it might be just the stylized names of each of the characters. And some of the fonts, like the stage 1 font down the bottom. So it's an arena-based fight with walls. As you see, you hit the wall there. It's a bit Psychic Force-like in that sense. You know, you go against the wall, it flashes where the wall is. You think it's just the edge of the arena. That doesn't look good. Didn't think that was going to be good for me. This is bad. Yeah, it's a PlayStation hardware thing, Mitchell. So it's, you know, what you'd expect to see on a PlayStation in terms of the effects, I think. The 3Ds are maybe a little rough, but again, I think it's based around original PlayStation capabilities, not one of the later, faster models either. And the sound, the very faint music is done with an extra YM chip, while the regular sound effects I think are SPU based, which is why I think these you know, the mixing is probably too low because you can barely hear the music. I don't know any moves. Look at that. Kicked across the arena. That wasn't good enough. But, you know, I'll accept a victory. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of 3D fighters, the Ogre, so it was a period when, you know, we were starting to get a lot of 3D fighters in the arcade, Street Fighter X and the like. Fighter's Impact that I just mentioned. Bloody Raw. So it seems kind of by the numbers for a 3D fighter's visual style at the time, I'd say. But not to say that's bad. I think this early 3D didn't look as good proper sprite work could look. I think, I mean, honestly, I think it's taken until probably the PlayStation 4 generation to have 3D art that looks every bit as good as the best of the 2D art. But that's just how, you know, that's just how things went. Star Gladiator, yes. I think Star Gladiator is on the All Killer list, or Star Gladiator 2, the Plasma Sword is. I think Star Gladiator's there, but it's commented out, so it's like, well, optional All Killer game, I'm not sure. This is the drop match. I like this character better. It's actually doing something. Tech Romancer as well. If we're going to extend to 1999, Final Fight Revenge. Yeah. I don't really know enough about either game to say. Give an opinion. I remember, I think it was Psychic Force got terrible reviews in the PlayStation magazines, didn't it? Yeah, I don't know about Star Gladiator. What other 3D fighters were of the era? I think Kyle Hodgetts had one, didn't he? Like Shadow Fighters or something, which is not properly emulated. Maybe for the best. But I know there's a Kyle Hodgetts one with an Intel CPU that I think is a 3D game that only displays the 2D right now. Unless it's just 2D done with something else. Don't know. Not sure anybody's going to put the effort to get that working at any point ever. Nobody's even curious to see how bad it is. Just, you know, obscure Intel CPUs that probably aren't used in anything else isn't the best of starts, and especially not with some sort of custom 3D hardware. Just for an awful game. And of course, we probably should mention the Hyper Neo Geo games, Fatal Fury, Wild Ambition as early 3D, not PlayStation based, but early-ish 3D fighters. Fight game. Jaw versus Jam. Oh, that's for the full extent of Jam, for the Jaw. The Jaw meets the Jam. I think Jaw versus Jam, Jam would probably win because Jaw gets stuck if we're doing rock, paper, scissors type things. Depends how sticky the Jam was. Do you make extra effort to try and emulate good games versus bad games? If anything, I make extra effort to try and emulate bad games, as long as the hardware is something I think I can understand. I do really like to see the worst of the games more so than the good games. But that might just be me. I mean, you've seen how long I've spent on some of these plug-and-play games over the last few years. And a lot of those are terrible. But they're somewhat rewarding to emulate just to find out how bad they are. Yeah, the arenas on this all seem a bit square. I mean, it just seems to be a changed floor texture and a changed background texture and a changed ceiling texture, and that's it. It's not the most creative of games in terms of, you know, stage layout design, unfortunately, from what I can tell. Stages aren't doing anything fancy. So I don't know if this would be on a personal top list. Probably not, in the sense that I don't really play fighters that much anyway. But it's got a nice style to it. It just seems a little bit dull visually. Lacks variety. I feel like I'm playing the same stage over and over. Just holodeck style. Maybe that's what it's meant to be though, I'm not sure. It just feel like, you know, you walked into a holodeck and it's just recreating the walls and recreating the floor and put you against a different character. I do like the characters, however. Can't complain about that. And the backgrounds that are there are, you know, pleasant. Bit different here, there's no ceiling. Again, it's just a square arena. Flashy fits at the side when you hit the side. It's just got no ceiling. Do I have a go-to fighter? I don't really play enough fighters to have a go-to fighter, Bob. If I just want to, you know, casually play something that I'm not going to be especially good at, I'll probably put one of the Darkstalkers games on, just because, you know, the visuals are really good and the music, the mood. They create a mood more so than a game I want to play. I'm not that interested in the game as a game, but the style of them has a feel-good factor to it. Yeah, the backgrounds are very plain. I mean, it's PlayStation hardware, so it doesn't really have tile maps as such, but just a big long texture. But, yeah, I'd like to find an original reference for the volume balance on this, because the music to me is very, very low. You can just about hear some drum beats in the background here. Yeah, Heaven's Gate is one of those okay fights. It doesn't seem to do anything especially wrong. It just doesn't seem to do anything outstanding or that memorable to me. I wanted to put it on the list because it probably gets overlooked. But I can see why you know, people don't really talk about it much. Anyway, I will move on, I think, to another game. What other game? Shall we go with a shooter. We've not really done any shooters today, have we? What shooter do I want to do? I have quite a selection to pick from. Well, we've done like Gunball, but that's not really shooter, is it? Now, I don't want to go for something too obvious. So let me look down my list here. Yeah, that'll do. Yeah, Dark Story. I mean, I remember some games at airports. I remember airports having the Taito flight games, which is kind of an obvious choice of an airport. I also remember the airport having, I think it was Luton Airport, having Sega's Cool Riders and the Korean Crazy Taxi type clone thing where you're on a unicycle, moped thing. Can't remember what that's called. That's PC hardware though. So the STV game Guardian Force is what I'm going for. Armed formation would also be a possibility. Carlo, might get to that later. But I wanted to play this one. Unfortunately, this is one of those where the game has got quite significant input lag, and it's how the game's programmed. It's not an emulation issue. I think it's intentional because it's meant to be a big bulky tank you're moving around, but it's kind of annoying. But this is one of those STV hardware, Saturn hardware games. Let's turn it down a little bit. So, practice stage. So you can rotate your turret that way or rotate the turret that way and fire. But the tap of the button leaves you like this. So you basically feel like you're moving in blocks at the time. But lots of explosions, lots of scaling effects. You can tell they wanted to show what the STV hardware can do in terms of sprite work. And it's Success who did the Cotton game, so they know how to do a good shooter. I've got a yo-yo again. I just played electric yo-yo and now I have a yo-yo projectile. It's like it knows. Well, this is getting a modern re-release. That'll be good to see then. Because this is a solid game from the STV Saturn library, I feel. Maybe one that is a little underrated. It takes a bit getting used to, as do many tank-based shooters. It's definitely a good one. I can kind of understand it not being on a list, because I think also with the list sometimes we're looking at ones that run well on a wide variety of devices, and the STV emulation is quite demanding. So I'm not sure. The list actually also covers non-MAME stuff, some Naomi stuff. I say non-MAME, I could file some Naomi games, but they're only about 60% speed. And then at 60% speed, they're still not really running at 60% speed. Because the timing the drive is off, so they're more like running at 30% speed. Then it says 60. Now this is of course a horizontally oriented, vertically scrolling shooter, which doesn't always sit well with me, but in this case, I don't think it harms the game. That's Rygost. Yeah, I could continue the sort of discus yo-yo theme and put Vigo on next, couldn't I? But now we've got a beanie thing. You can make the beam sweep around when you rotate the turret too, which is a kind of cool effect. Ooh. Look at, I like the effect here with the shells, that you know, the empty shells falling away at the back, and the little, you know, the chain gun things used. It's a nice visual touch they've got going on, and the arms flying off. Again, it's using the sprite scaling and rotation to add a look to the game. It's just a shame the controls do feel, say, a bit laggy, a bit sticky. Again, I think they've gone for that intentionally. It's not maybe the best design choice. But no, I have worked in studios or on things or with people where they've actively wanted to add input lag into games to make the game more difficult. It is a design choice in many cases. Nice transparency effect there. You see, that's STV using the proper transparency on that background there. Because between, you know, things on the same layer, it can do proper transparencies. Or, you know, same chip. Sorry, between certain things it can. Mixing on STV is complicated. You know, you can only have one layer of sprites. You can't blend sprite on sprite, but you can blend sprite on background. It's actually much more difficult to explain, but in certain situations you can do proper blending. That was one of the cases. I don't think Killer Instinct was ever going to be N64 hardware, Carlo. I think that was just advertising, marketing, lying to people, basically. You know, trying to big the N64 up when it was never going to be anything to do with the hardware. Funny thing is, the N64 hardware is better than the Killer Instinct hardware. The Killer Instinct hardware is just a MIPS CPU and a frame buffer. And so all pre-rendered backgrounds that stream from the hard drive. Yeah, Cruising USA, of course, is nothing to do with Killer Instinct hardware either. Again, it's just advertised, just marketing. Not even remotely connected. Yeah, and the Saturn version is basically the same because this is Saturn arcade hardware. It's another one of those games that is stupidly expensive, of course, if you want to own an original Saturn copy, because it's a Saturn shooter and they're more expensive than even the other expensive Saturn games. But, unfortunately, yeah, people are basically priced out of a lot of these older games these days. Not ideal. I'm surprised more of the companies haven't realised that there's a market for them and started reissuing them officially. Yeah, everything on Killer Instinct is pre-rendered, Carlo. It's just streaming different frames off the hard drive as you move to give it, you know, a fake 3D effect, as far as I know. Choose. Yeah, I do like these Saturn games that use the effects, you know, use the scaling. The Cotton games, as mentioned, the Success did those two, and they really push it. Terror Driver, I can't remember the Japanese name because it's really long and difficult to remember. That also uses a lot of the effects, rotation on the bosses and the like, and it looks really good as a result. Yeah, this one's emulated pretty well these days. I don't know if it's perfect. There might be places in the game that still have a fair number of glitches, because the STV emulation is definitely not perfect. But yeah, it's clearly a playable game. Nice laser attack, if you like laser attacks. I probably prefer the Cotton games as games. Again, that's a personal preference thing. Yeah, that's the one I mean, Carlo, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce. That's probably also eligible for these streams, actually. I doubt that's on this. But we've had an STV game now, and I chose this one. So might have to just be on another stream with another theme. And I don't know what the next theme's going to be. I think so. I think I might be looking at more console things next month, because I've really not done much in the way of console in April, because I've been in this All Killer Alternatives theme, and the general focus there is the arcade games. It appears on these streams. Very difficult to say, SB. I mean, I think late 80s, early 90s, you sort of early CPS, your Ghouls and Ghosts era, I mean, that's the type of game I really like. Although, anything. The thing is, Outrun is, it's late. I mean, it's after the mid 80s, so anything from Outrun to CPS 1 and that type of era. Sort of the 16-bit era, I'd say, because I was kind of too young to really appreciate the 8-bit era when the 8-bit arcade era was in its prime. No, I was born in 81, so by the time I was 10, it was the 90s already. And so I missed a lot of that. On the Spectrum, you had a lot of the ports of the 16-bit games that were not great, so then seeing the originals and getting a Mega Drive and having ports of things like Ghouls and Ghosts that were really good was impressive. Strider, of course. So, yeah, this is a decent game. I mean, I don't think it's quite up there in terms of the playability of things like Racdym, but it stands out for its own reasons. I'd rather play this than, say, Radiant Silvergun, which I've never been a huge fan of, as impressive as it is. I did like Heroe, but I never really liked Radiant Silvergun that much. Yeah, I mean, with the arcade games, you did get a lot of games that looked 16-bit that were powered by 8-bit CPUs. In reality, the graphics chips in the arcades didn't change that much between those 8-bit powered games and the 16-bit ones, so it's understandable. Same with things like Pac-Mania, you know. The 16-bit home ports weren't as impressive as the arcade, and the arcade is all 8-bit CPUs. It's all about the number of them, the video hardware and everything else, all combined. Anyway, say, Guardian Force, decent little tank shooter on STV hardware. I think you get the idea of it. I'm not going to continue playing it. Lots of things rotating, shows off the Saturn hardware. Impressive and, yeah, worth playing if you ask me. I think most arcade ports to the Amiga were kind of bad, weren't they, Stephen? It's one thing I remember. The Amiga, for its original software, it's fantastic. People trying to port 8-bit games or arcade games to the Amiga never really came off that well. Hey Casper, thank you for joining. I hope you're doing well. I'm not going to play Rolling Thunder, but for the purpose of the chat, there you go. Two 6809s as the main CPUs for it, and a 63701. So yeah, not a 16-bit game. Okay, where are we going to go now? Shall we stick with shooters? Yeah, let's stick with shooters. Go with Kaneko and Heavy Unit. This one's an 8-bit game too. It's got 3 Z80s and an 8051, which is the Protection MCU. the curious thing about Heavy Unit is one of the Z80 program ROMs says 68K program by somebody, one of the developers, I'm assuming, which is really strange because the game doesn't use a 68K processor. So I don't know if it was originally written for a 68K processor and then ported back to a Z80, or if they wanted to try and throw bootleggers off, but the board's clearly got 3 Z80s on it, so it's just one of those strange things to see a credit for, 68K program in a game that really doesn't have a 68K. $64-bit Jaguar. Oh yes. People like to throw big numbers around, don't they? Again, it's always a lot. There's a lot more to it than the CPUs. So this did get a version on the Mega Drive and PC Engine. I think that those versions are special versions rather than the Switch is just the original Heavy Unit. But this is a decent horizontal shooter. This again, it's quite tough. Don't know why you've got archers. No SB, this is an original arcade game. It was also on the PC Engine, but the hardware here is not related to the PC Engine. Yeah, the PC Engine was basically an 8-bit CPU combined with a more capable VDP. Right, transformed. I've got bombs too. Always forget that. So there's a bit of an R-type puzzle aspect here, pushing things, making yourself a path, and I guess that's what you kind of get in horizontal shooters, though, isn't it? There's more environmental bits. It's not so useful here. Now, I think there are cases in the emulation of this where it might soft lock, like a DJ Boy, and apparently maybe be Rat Boys. Very strange that all these Kaneko games suffer from that, actually. Bit of sprite rake up there, I don't know if that happens on hardware or not. What's the IREM game that looks a bit like this? Is it X Multiple that's got the sort of organic look to it? I always get that confused with another one, but I think it was that one. Yeah, I mean, you don't have free transformation like you do on some other games. So I think Sky Robo you can transform at will. Savius Transformer you can transform at will. This seems to transform you as a power-up. But it's a nice little gimmick. Yes. Continue! Exclamation mark. Checkpoint is now back here. Now severely underpowered. Slightly less underpowered. But very slow. Kaneko made some good games. This is one of those that is really heavily protected, actually. I mean, before the MCU was decapped and dumped, we did make various attempts to simulate it, but it does quite a lot for the game in terms of copying data around. So it was not an easy one to work out. I think had we not been able to dump the MCU, it probably would never have been emulated. Same DJ Boy, that was a very messy one. Kaneko did sometimes really go all out on the protection. Not sure why, but presumably did stop the bootlegs, because we're not aware of any bootlegs of this game, or of DJ Boy. So it served its purpose. Again, kind of R-type like in some of the designs here. It does seem to be sort of borrowing from IREM, I think style-wise. Let's speed up. also a little bit sort of Gradius with the environmental aspect and avoiding things like these floating rocks. Yeah, I think this is actually a decent game. It's obviously pre-bullet hell, so you've got a big hitbox as you saw there. I just kind of do wonder if the emulation fully holds up the whole time, because there have been a few reports of it soft-locking in places. Of course, you can't rule out them just being original game bugs. It's always a problem. Sometimes, you know, the players playing today can be too good for the games and break them in ways the developers never anticipated. I don't remember. Are you talking on the Mega Drive recipe? Because you get a Mega Drive port. And Arrow Flash's Mega Drive game from memory. X Multiply had weird tentacles on the ship. Did it also have them on the background, or am I thinking an entirely different back game? Now I think we've got to that point where I've died at a critical place and I can't get the power-ups I need to actually make any good progress. So it's going to be very difficult without some auto-fighting. And hey, main fan, thank you for joining. Always good to see you. Yeah, don't get too close to that. 26809s equals 8 plus 8, 16-bit. It's science. Well, that must make the magnet system 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. Yep, the magnet system is a powerful system then. I believe it's a 40-bit system. Believe it or not. What does that make race driving panorama? That's got a fair number of CPUs. Don't go back and read your main ramblings. I do try and read back in the chat every now and again when I'm not concentrating on avoiding death in games that I would die in if I don't concentrate. Continue! Exclamation mark. There are exclamation marks here. Scene 2-4. I think auto-fire would probably help here as well. Not saying the game is difficult, but the game is kind of difficult. Don't think I'm going to get any further. Might just let it die. It almost did better than me without me on the keyboard. That's always embarrassing. So no, I won't continue. Exclamation mark. Yeah, heavy unit. It's a nice little horizontal shooter. It's definitely an alternative. Most people recommend R-Type and things like that for your horizontal shooters. I don't think there's anything really wrong with Heavy Unit. It's far better than, say, Sky Rover and things like that. It's just a solid Kaneko game, and Kaneko did a lot of solid games. 88, maybe a little late to the market, especially for it being a Z80 based one. SFX, is that Taiyo? I know. I thought SFX was Nichibutsu. It is one I've played before. In fact, I think it's one that I helped with the emulation of. I remember quite liking SFX. Also, I think the Skelegon thing's still got ROM data missing. The clone hasn't it, because they put it in a custom module or something. So yeah, SFX is. I think I can actually play SFX. I believe it is eligible for the stream. Yeah, it looks like it is. Okay. Yeah, I think it is important to get this information in MAME because who developed the game is as important as the publisher in many cases, and we do have the information like that for a lot of things. I mean, Robotron credits the proper developers too. I think some of the Gallico stuff needs updating too, because like Biomechanical Toy credits Zeus. It doesn't even say Gallico in the game. So SFX, yeah, okay. I can play this one. I seem to remember this has got very annoying sounds. 83, say Nichibutsu published. What are you saying? Yeah, check you've got advertised something very silly. Yeah, this has got very annoying sounds, so I'm just going to leave the sound volume quite low. But yeah, I definitely did something with the emulation of this one. I can't remember exactly what. Okay, we can turn the volume up a bit now. But then we've got this sound over here. So it's a left and right firing one. You clear the ways of enemies. And you get attacked by that thing. Which I guess is the Skelegon if you point to the clone version. It kind of makes sense though, the vertebrae, because the other one, is it Monster Z, is credited to Neon Game, although again I think that's one where there's code in a module that's never been dumped. But I do think these had custom modules on the boards, at least the original versions. Although hopefully it's not a battery-backed module, because other Neon system, I don't know if they're related. Games use battery-backed modules. And counter runs and 3 kicks. I mean, Neon System's a different company, aren't they? So yeah, this is one of those stay away from the enemy, get your distance, shoot them, and clear the number of enemies that are listed in the top corner there. It's kind of addictive. Still a very simple game. That would be a lot of editing to do, Bob. But yeah, maybe something like that will have to be done in the future, because some of those strings are getting a bit long-winded. Also, the games where they've got like licensed dip switches for loads of different options are a mess to document properly, because you can't really fit all of them in the single field. Toaplan are really bad for that. A lot of their games have got tons of different like potential licenses. So yeah, SFX. I wasn't originally going to play this one, but it was on the the list of games I'd created that weren't on the other list of games. So it's one I'd thought about a few times. But every time I think of it, I just remember how annoying the sound is. I don't think it's badly emulated. I think it's just annoying sound. So it's a very playable game if you like your classic shooters. And it's got a background that scrolls along. Bonus action. See that? There's no background here. This is the bonus stage. Get some good bonuses in the bonus round. Not do that though. There we go. I've got a bit of a bonus. And then the background has changed. It's still trying to get me and push me around. Power up when you destroy it too. So, for an early game, I think this is a fairly good one to play. Maybe because it's not too difficult. I mean, it's never struck me as one of those games that's brutally hard. You know, you can play it as long as you're good at dodging a few things, and never too fast. You'll survive for a while. You can see how I'm playing this compared to some of the other ones I've looked at, where it's like, I died. But now I say that, I'm dying. And now I'm not looking at the screen, now I'm dying. So yeah, there you go. That's SFX, which Vertebrae has said is another Taiyo game. So yeah, not sure this music really fits the game, but it's not bad, is it? SFX champion. So let's move on to something else. No. In fact, yeah, SFX was pretty high up in the list of things to play. I didn't realise I'd actually put it there already. Okay, where am I going? What am I playing? Yes, it's a bit of a... So, what would you describe it as? To me, it's quite a rock and roll. Is it rock and roll type track? I don't really know. I'm not good at musical genres. It kind of feels like, you know, that type of thing. Something that we played in an old cafe or the like. So yeah. Okay, let's go with a random sports game. I'm going to go with a bootleg. And this isn't especially good. In fact, I'm going to put cheats on because I'll tell you one thing. If you're going to play Goal 92 bootleg, you will quickly realise that you need to overclock the CPU. Now, this is a bootleg of Seibu Cup Soccer. Seibu Cup Soccer is one of the most heavily protected games we have got. And somehow somebody managed to bootleg it, but they've done quite a bad job of the bootleg. The bootleg runs sort of half the frame rate of the original. It's got tons of slowdown, tons of sprite flicker, and the ball logic's wrong, and it breaks in places, and it's generally a bit of a mess. But this is still the closest you can come to playing Seibu Cup Soccer in MAME. And also the sound is horrible and is ripped from World Cup 90 or something like that. Mappy has good music, yes. The music's important to Mappy. Mappy's got the bonus round where it's against the music as well, which many of those plug and plays break because they've replaced the music with a sample that doesn't last the same length as the proper music. So why am I looking at this one? I guess because it's not actually all that bad. It's just a bad bootleg, and it's one of those that makes you really want to get Seibu Cup Soccer emulated. But until Seibu Cup Soccer is emulated, this is maybe the closest you get, but like I see, it's really flickery. So if you're going to play this, the first thing you need to do is overclock the CPU to like 400%. Or maybe not 400%, but you know, faster. Maybe 200%. Or something a bit faster. Okay, so now, I think because the protection in the game does so much, the bootleggers just couldn't convert it to run on the hardware they were trying to run, so it just ends up being really bad. But we'll have a look at it anyway. Why does MAME sometimes do that? The menu gets stuck. I don't know why. It's not the first time I've seen it do it. It's okay if you return to the previous menu. But yeah, Seibu Cup Soccer is one of those I'd really like to see emulated because it actually is, in its original form, a really good football game. And this is really just a taste of what it should be. Gaza. There was some good Gaza. There was a good Gaza game. There was a bad Gaza game. Although, are you saying the actual profile looks like Gaza? The players do this little rotation thing when they get the ball. They'll spin around when you change direction. It's actually really well animated. There's lots going on. You've got all your fake advertising banners, which are really obvious. That went out for a goal kick. I think that hit the post and came back into play. But, you know, again, I don't think the bootlegs kind of got everything right. Come on. That went out for a goal kick. But yeah, the sponsors are so non-obvious, aren't they? Budweiser with 2 R's, and Fujifilm with 2 I's, and Mars with 2 S's. Yes, totally don't know what those really are. And that's not the bootleg. That is how they are in Seibu Cup Soccer. In fact, one of the ways you can tell Seibu Cup Soccer apart from Olympic Soccer 92, I believe, are the advertising banners. But as I said before, Olympic Soccer 92 is a really strange one because unless you hack the ROM, it will always just boot as Seibu Cup Soccer. Because something on the actual board, as well as the COP protection, is overlaying parts of the ROM. If you change the ROM, those parts, it doesn't change. If you hack the game to show what's there in ROM, it still shows it as if you hadn't modified it. A normal game. So yeah, there's that extra layer of protection there too with this one. Yes, Coca-Cola with 2 O's, or Coca-Cola. 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 What pigeons drink. I don't see any pigeons in this though. But yeah, I'm not going to spend too long on this one, but Seibu Cup Soccer is one of those that gets asked about all the time. So if you did want, the closest alternative to be in your list, this is it. It just does have some quite significant problems. There are other bootlegs of Seibu Cup Soccer as well, but the bootleggers managed to basically put their own protection in it, sort of get rid of half the protection of the original Seibu stuff, but still have some of the more complex parts of the protection. It's a very odd situation. And those bootlegs also have their own different math table ROMs that aren't the same as the original COP math table ROMs. I don't really understand how those bootlegs came to be. Maybe there was some leaked information back in the day, or maybe the bootleggers were just really good at reverse engineering the hardware. Better than I am at playing this game, clearly. There we go, I've scored a goal. But what I haven't done is scored 92 goals. Yeah, they're trying to avoid it, but it's still too obvious to really avoid it. And the logos are still too similar. Look, it's... I don't think they'd really get away with that if challenged. You know exactly what they're meant to be. I win. So, next round is against Spain. My keeper's got it and kicks it out. But the AI isn't quite right in this version either, from what people have said. Again, that's all going through the protection, and there's no radar. Again, that goes through the protection on the original. There's a lot missing here. But as I said, it's a bootleg, and it's quite amazing it exists in the first place, given how well protected the game is. And it's also, I mean, it's even more surprising that maybe they didn't put that extra little bit of effort in to make it even better, because they've clearly put a considerable effort into it to get it where it is. But maybe they just gave up. Maybe it's like, yeah, we don't understand the rest of this. Ship it, it will do. Yeah, like Taito did with Vertebrae. Taito games are full of adverts for other Taito games, Hat-Trick Hero and the like. And yes, that's always a good thing to do in arcades because it makes you aware of the other arcade games that company have. Or sometimes games that never came out, I believe. I think there were some games with billboards of games that are prototypes. Can't remember which one though, but there's, I think it's a Neo Geo one. For reference, I'll probably briefly show the Seibu game afterwards. Get up. That's exactly where the whistle would have blown, isn't it? Anyway, we won't continue. I just wanted to show that as because it's an alternative in a different sense. I'll actually leave the Olympic soccer version. It doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. But you've got big Seibu logo. So yeah, Olympic soccer '92. But you can see it's faster, it's smoother. But you see the ball movement and the player movement and the radar. Oh, we're going through the protection zone. All the players just decide we're going to run away. We're going to run right the way away. And so, you know, they're now leaving the stadium. Oh, one of them decided to come back. Or two of them decided to come back. Maybe three of them decided to come back. Well, there we go. And now you're just running around because there's no proper collisions. Yeah, you get the idea. You can clean it up. You can choose England again. You get a bit of you get better fading effects. You get more Argentina. You get your same banners on this one, haven't you? So you do sort of get the ball here, but you know, I'm running around backwards and sideways. You know, I'm not rotating when I'm moving up and down as I should be. I'm running around. The other players have just run off again. So this has got M&M's and other things as the adverts up there, and Cameron. Maybe those are the same ones actually. And obviously the goalkeepers are a bit stupid in this version, so you can just score lots of goals. Because again, it's all protection and all collisions, and you know. Now maybe somebody will run back to take the kick off. You can see the radar is present here. Now I can't get the ball because why would I be able to get the ball? Why does my slide tackle go backwards? Protection. Yeah, it's a mess. Okay, let's just go through the match. Now it looks like there's little fleas bouncing around. But you can always like score, you can usually score one goal and win every match if you really want to get to the ending that way. But yeah, that's not playable. That's just really heavily protected. So was it the original Seibu Cup Soccer that's got different billboards? I don't remember now. But yeah, Argentina. Yeah, maybe there was a mistake in the spelling there. Is that the game where the final team you play is God? I don't remember. Was that one of the Konami ones? Anyway, let's load up a game that was mentioned on a previous stream. And that is Rally Bike, a Toaplan one. Now, this was mentioned when I played Traverse USA, because it's kind of a bit of a rip-off of it, although it does enough of its own to be a game worth playing, I think. So, Rally Bike. So, it is another one of those race from checkpoint to checkpoint one. In this one, if you hold up, you get your maximum speed, though. If you hold down, you do a wheelie. So if you're not holding up, you're not going to go at full speed. But yeah, it's very much like a 16-bit version of something like Traverse USA. I crashed. Ruggulus, I'm using the CRT GM Deluxe shader with the default settings from MAME. You know, I've not changed anything with it, I've just enabled it. So it's the one that ships in the current versions. I think it was updated in 0.230. And we've just got 2.3.1 out. But yeah, I just turned it on and just use it as it is. And it gives very good results. But yeah, if you're used to Toaplan making mostly shooters or games with projectiles, combat-based ones. This can be a bit of a shock to see because it really is none of those things. It's a racing game. Where you don't want to hit anything. You don't even want to try and bump them off the road. I need gas. There we go, there's some gas. Goal 92's been far too reprogrammed to be of any use of emulating the original Fortuna-chan. They've basically ripped out huge chunks of the game code and replaced it with their own. And there's nothing really to dump on the original Seibu sock reader. It's a gateway rather than an MCU, so you know it's not one we can decap and dump that way either. And I don't know if anybody extracts code from gate arrays and simulates gate arrays, but it's not something we've ever done or know how to do or would know how to do. And you're basically dealing with a completely undocumented thing even if you've got whatever data is inside it. Hey Andy, I just use the defaults, so you know I use the CRTGM Deluxe with whatever the defaults are. So if I bring not that one, no, it's sliding controls, isn't it? So look, I've just got the whatever the standard ones are here. See, I'm not too keen on the music on this one, Bob. I don't think this is Toaplan's best work. It's a decent little game, but not one that usually holds my attention for too long. I tend to prefer the games where you're actually bashing things off the road rather than spending the entire time avoiding them. But yeah, the default shader settings are just really good out the box, Andy. You really don't need to adjust them. At least if you're on like one of the most recent 2 versions. So let's keep going. I need some gas. Yeah, I know. No, it doesn't, does it, Bob? And the engine sound, you know, once you're driving, there's no real engine sound. I don't know. To me, the sound design on this is kind of weak by Toaplan standards. Maybe it's just meant to be sort of a casual Sunday drive type thing. I don't know. The other drivers on the road are not making it casual. Yeah, the YouTube just tend to... The YouTube... Not just the YouTube compression, but also the scaling, because, you know, it's not one-to-one pixel from the monitor I'm viewing it on to the little window I've got there. So there's some extra artifacting created by the scaling. But yeah, in person, you know, the shader looks really, really good. Let's jump. So yeah, I'd probably prefer to play Traverse USA. If I had to pick one of the 2 games to go on the All Killer list, but I can see why some people might prefer this just for the 16-bit look. Not everybody wants games to look 8-bit. Crashed into the pig trailer. Yeah, Mo, stomach rumbling sound. You are very right. It's like, oh dear, I need to find a bathroom. Need to find a bathroom soon. And the fact that you have to hold up all the time as well is kind of... I don't mind it, it's just... maybe I just prefer Traverse USA if I want something like this. This looks nicer. But, just never really grabbed me as much. But I see a lot of people really like it, which is why, again, one of the reasons I put it on here, because it's one of those games people ask about. Even though it's an obvious title, Rally Bike, people seem to have forgot what it was called. It's got its fans. It's just a big departure from what you really associate with Toaplan. Yeah, the Ninja Baseball games I've read to play. And I think the music emulation here is solid. I mean, it's Yamaha chips, isn't it? Yeah, so I don't think it's one of those cases where there's much that could be wrong. Sure. I missed the gas there. Collisions are a bit harsh sometimes. Yeah, it'll be one of the new cores, but it's not like this has changed how it sounds significantly over the years. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. I would play it, but there were games I'd play ahead of it, so I don't know where I'd rank that one. So let's have a look. There are just so many games here. I'm not sure which ones to feature. So many that I think should have been on that list. Let's keep scrolling down. I could probably do a whole extra month's worth of streams from this lot, to be quite honest with you. There's just that much here. I did say there were Neo Geo games that I felt should be on the list that weren't. So let's have a look at one of those. Yes, unfortunately, say I was pretty tired the last 2 days, so I've not felt like streaming. Otherwise, I would have got through some more of these. But let's just bring up one of the Neo Geo games, because this is one that always had a certain charm to me, and that is Ninja Master's Grammatically Incorrect as the title is. Now, the Neo Geo sound balance is apparently a little bit off in 231. So the FM versus PCM is slightly wrong, which surprises me, but I'm sure again it will be corrected in short time, because it's a case of fine-tuning the new implementation. But it is better than it was. Now, this is one of those is also credited to ADK. ADK typically not the best. However, this one's just got a lot of style to it and some great music. So not overly big sprites. It's got these unique hit animations which always stand out. And I say I love the style it's got. So let's credit this one up. Credit it, and how to play. Light punch, strong punch. Light kick, strong kick. Pretty standard. You got your weapon, yeah. B and C to pull your weapon out. Let's be this one. I guess people just see this as sort of a weaker Samurai Showdown or something, because it's got that very Japanese theme. It's got weapons. But it doesn't really play like Samurai Showdown. And yeah, it's one of those Neo Geo games that even back in the day stood out over the others to me. Let's get the weapon out. Let's hit you with a big hammer. There we go, you see. So you can do that. You can withdraw, sheath or withdraw your weapon at any point during the fights just by pressing 2 buttons, and you get a different set of attacks when you put your weapon out and you don't. But yeah, this one always stands out as a bit different. It's not Samurai Shodown, it's not Last Blade, it is a weapon-based fighter. I think it's got some of the better 2D art on the system too, which again surprises me with it being a one that's credited to ADK. The animation, again, animation's really good for the time as well. There's a lot of frames of animation, well animated attacks. Again, I think because the sprites aren't overly big, they've managed to squeeze more frames of animation into them. So I don't know why this one seems to fall under the radar for so many people. You heard lots of clicking and ran back from the kitchen. Ah, yes. It's a button mashing fighting game. Let's get my weapon out. Now, if I was bashing the keyboard with this big hammer here, I'm sure it'd be even louder, but I probably wouldn't have a keyboard left after this, so. Yes, a very stylish game. Not too over the top. It's not throwing blood everywhere. Nice fire effect there between the stages. Beautiful backgrounds. I mean, what is it people don't like about it? Is it just not fun as a fighting game if you know how to play fighting games? I love the waterfall there, the animation. Right, let's get my ammo out. No! Get it back. That didn't go well. I was too busy looking at the waterfall and at the fire. Unfortunately, this character's quite slow as you get the bigger characters. You're using yours like a rocket launcher, right? Yeah, I do that. Oh, oof. So close. Finish. When this cannon fires off, everything will be alright. Alright for you, not alright for me. Let's be old now. Yeah, I think this one probably should have had a sequel. It's one of those Neo Geo games that, you know, with even better animation, I think it could have been one of the best games on the system. You know, so I just don't know why it just got this one game that seemed to really fall under the radar. Wait a minute, that's just me. That's just my opinion. It would be probably one of the first fighting games for the Neo Geo I'd put in a top list myself. But maybe I'm alone feeling that one. I don't want to spend too long on this because it is a Neo Geo fighting game, and I know a lot of people, even though it doesn't get talked about, probably already familiar with it being a Neo Geo game. Because it's probably, you know, the most overhyped of the arcade platforms. Even when you know, you're talking about the more obscure games. There are videos of people ranking all the Neo Geo games. So it's not hidden. It's just not talked about that much. There we go. I like my little pirate looking hat. I mean, it's not a pirate hat, but it looks a bit like a pirate hat. I can't quit drinking, particularly after I beat something. I think the art style is unique. I don't think there are any other fighting games with quite this style of art for the characters. I don't know what you'd call the style, but again, it stands out. They've almost got more realistic proportions. It's a very cheap keyboard. I don't think it's mechanical, no. It literally cost me like £5 from Argos, so it's nothing special. I think the localization, a lot of things didn't get localized, especially if they wanted that authentic Japanese mood, which I guess this is going for. If it was in English, it would probably lose some of the style it's got. It doesn't. It says it on the screen. You don't need it to be localized. It just gives it a bit more authenticity, I feel. Yeah, so probably move on after this fight, regardless of the outcome. So, I believe I have a victory. Round 3. Now there appear to be a few people who were not so lucky in the background there. Somebody really should get around to cleaning up those bodies, but I guess this fight's more important. Is that what I do? Get my stick out. There we go. Anti-stick. Now, I don't know how to use my hyper, which I probably should learn if I actually want to get anywhere. Well, I lost. I lost indeed. There you go. What a shame. Is that all the technique you have? Yes, that's all the technique I have. I'm not good at fighting games. I just happen to enjoy them if they're visually pleasing and feel satisfying in some way, which this one does. Very moody. That is enough of Ninja Masters. Say Rygar is one I could play. It is up here near the top of the list. Do I want to? No, maybe too well known. I'm going to put on one that's not actually very well emulated, which doesn't make the original list because of the controls, and the controls are a bit of a mess. That is Wheels Runner from Who Knows When by International Games. European game, obviously. Circuit racing can be like Super Sprint. Super Sprint's not on the main list either because it's analog controls. And this is not on the main list for the same reason. Unfortunately, this one controls really badly. All the sources indicate, you know, it's what the type of wheel is, but the game seems to interpret your steering, you know, the auto centering on the steering as steering in the other direction, so it just ends up steering the wrong way in certain cases. Every time you steer it flips back because it seems to be interpreting the steering, the auto steering the other direction as you wanting to turn in the direction. It really messes up the controls. But hooking it up to another kind of wheel, one that doesn't auto center, wouldn't match what other documentation suggests it's meant to be. It's almost like it's meant to be a dial, not a wheel. nothing seen suggests it is a dial, so it's a very confusing one. You know, I can potentially make it control better, but then it might not be accurate, unless there's just another set out there that had different inputs, and this one's just hacked to work with the wrong type of inputs, which is why it controls so badly in MAME. I don't know. If this played better and the controls didn't feel off, I think this would be a nice little alternative. But it does seem to have issues with the controls. Obviously it's kind of ugly, but it's also seems like it should be fun. Just say very frustratingly broken controls. Clearly a Super Sprint rip-off with a very European look to it. I mean, you've got the opening and closing bridges there, just like in Super Sprint. You've got opening and closing gates, but this is a bit more 90s. I'm fairly sure it's not meant to control like this. This is just random, you know, steering correction all the time, which is really annoying. I don't think this is how you make it any more difficult. I think this is just broken input emulation. Now, speaking of input emulation, the Psycho Maru game I covered in another stream is now improved. Suzuki Arcade did implement that as a proper, I think it's dial style input rather than whatever it was before, or maybe it was a trackball style input. But that now is actually playable in the into the screen stages, so that's probably one I'll look at in a future stream, but not this stream. So this is playable, it just handles really badly and shouldn't, from what people who have played the original said anyway. The original didn't handle like this. But memories can be faulty, however I'm kind of inclined to agree. Now, as you can see, I play it on keyboard anyway, but it's no better if you actually try and play it on dial. In fact, if you try and play it on anything analog like the mouse, it's even worse because the steering correction you notice even more. Oh dear, I appear to be stuck. Maybe I broke it. Oh no, I've blown up. I'd say 90s, but there's literally no copyright information on it, so no. I don't think it'd be after the 90s. But it could be very late 80s, that's the problem. It could be like 89, it could be 93. And so, you know, you don't know. You can only go on any strings you find in it, but when it's crossing those two, you know, the end of the 80s to the start of the 90s, you can only put sort of question mark, because you don't know for sure if it's end of 80s or start 90s. It's not going to be later than the 90s, it's not going to be earlier than the 80s, but it's sort of that transitional period. But yeah, it'd be a good alternative if it handled better, and I think that's an emulation glitch. It's pleasant, it sounds good. So clearly a Super Sprint rip-off, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. For a game from a basically unknown manufacturer, which we don't even know when was made, can't really complain about that one. And we are actually running out of time for the stream though. We're almost on 3 hours, so it's flown by. Okay, let's go with a Seibu one, a Tad one even, Seibu hardware. Let's go with Heated Barrel. I think I've played this on another stream, but it's one that's worth playing. Heated Barrel, Tad Corporation. Tad did the likes of Cabal. This is on Legion Air hardware. It's one of the protected Seibu games, but it's one where the protection is handled to a point where the game is reasonably playable. So, stage 1. Now, it's a walk-along shooter. Now, when you press a direction, you do shoot, so when you change direction, which is a bit of an odd mechanic, but that's how it works. You can also shoot yourself. There's no point in not shooting, because you've got to kill everything. So obviously you've got this Sunset Riders type theme. It's, you know, it's Wild West theme. But better known for Sunset Riders in the arcades, really, isn't it? But it's what I guess what you call a belt shooter. You've got, you know, 2.5D moving up and down the screen, but it's side-on view. So it fits in there with games like Ark and The Destroyer from Jail. Not a beat 'em up because it's no, it's all gun based. Not close combat. Lost a life already, unfortunately. You get little boss fights. And that's avoiding things like you shoot them up. The boss attacks aren't just straight line attacks, they're bullet patterns, and you've got to know where your hitbox is. Grenade, bomb. But yeah, this is actually, you know, a good fun game, and again, it's one that wasn't emulated correctly for many years. So it's one that if you know people only paid attention to MAME sort of 10 years ago, probably not familiar with. And therefore gets missed out a lot of top lists because people just didn't play it in MAME much when it wasn't emulated properly, for obvious reasons. It used to crash all the time and the collisions didn't work, a bit like Seibu Soccer. It's using the same protection system, just not as extensively. And just getting this one alone working was a lot of effort. But Seibu Soccer does take things on the protection to another level. Yeah, horizontal gun smoke, Bob. That's one way to look at it. And that reminds me, I did want to look at Capcom's Speed Rumbler, which is another one of the 80s games that seems to get overlooked compared to Gunsmoke. I'm not sure there's going to be time, unfortunately. Slightly comical animations. Bit of a sprite glitch there, maybe? No, that's not a sprite, that's just the shadow, isn't it? Yeah. Shoot the things in the background before they shoot you. Oops. Let's continue. Yeah, it's a solid game, this, and it's an enjoyable one, challenging one, and I think it plays fine. I've not noticed any issues with the the protection simulation we have for this one. I think all the features it uses are properly supported, unlike Seibu Soccer, which is just making all sorts of calls to features we don't understand yet. Plus the protection on them is programmable, so they can load different sort of protection programs of their own, and some of them do customize it. Like a macro language type thing for the protection device, and some of them upload different sequences which no doubt change how the collisions work, and it's a bit of a mess. Bang. Bang as in the Gallico lightgun game, or just bang as in something went bang? There's a bleeding fire on me. I mean, you can go bang. You can turn into a barrel and explode, which is probably where the game gets its name from, actually. You are probably the heated barrel there. Not always the most useful attack, though. Oh, getting away. Let's just stand right there, but it's a bit of a weak attack. More of a deceleration attack than a complete screen clearing bomb. The enemy attacks aren't too difficult to read in this, though. He's changing direction, giving me plenty of time to react before he actually breathes fire, so it's fair. Double KO. Imagine when you die, you turn into a heart. Yeah, that's an unusual choice. Can't go into a secret cave. I will have to see if I can work some of the remaining games into something next month. Because there are definitely more that weren't in that list that I'd like to cover. Just, it's not going to be, you know, the only theme of the month. I might just do a one-off or something like that next month with the same theme, just not with the April title. Because these two seem to have been quite popular streams. People seem to have enjoyed seeing things that aren't on those lists. A one-off. Your train crashed. But anyway, we are now over 3 hours, so I'm probably going to lose this live very soon, and then start to close the stream down. Yeah, lose this life. I'm usually good at losing lives. Kind of similar sort of attack pattern. Looks in the direction, attacks. There we go, I lost the life there. No continue. But yeah, very Tad. I mean, Tad used a similar theme with Blood Brothers, didn't they? So, you know, again, the Wild West barrels and all that. So it's clearly a theme they wanted to, they quite liked. Yeah, Heated Barrel is, you know, it's one of those good, solid games that has proper traditional arcade values for the type of game it is. But yes, with that, you know, there's a whole list of games here I still want to cover, but I don't want to be going on too late. And there are other streamers I do want to watch now, so, you know, I want to be switching over and having a look at Nikki and Bunty's streams, Sypho streams. So I am going to have to call this one now and potentially do some of the rest of this list another day, but we'll see how it goes. I'm going to have to work out my May schedule at some point. But thank you again to everybody who's been here. Thank you for everybody participating in the chat, everybody lurking, everybody who's been here for the previous streams too and have found things interesting. You know, playable Native American, nice touch. Sometimes these things are a bit controversial these days, aren't they? I try to look at the games for the games and not necessarily overthink that bit. And it's because I don't really want to be offending people with the streams and the content. But yeah, it's a good game. Okay, and say thank you as well, Stephen, and thank you to everybody. But I will be ending this one now, so bye bye. Take care, everybody, and I will see you soon.